Critical Role Recap Season 2, Episode 76. So last week, the Mighty Nein went to the den of an ancient white dragon, managed to get it to breathe its frosty breath onto a large chunk of mithril that they had prepared, and then stole away and narrowly escaped with their lives with the newly created ice flex in hand, making their way back to Uthadurn, and used that material as one of the components for reforging the Star Razor. So this week we pick up immediately with them stumbling into the teleportation chamber and knocking over some chairs in their haste to make their way safely away from the ancient white dragon that was bearing down on their magical dome protecting them. They returned to Umagorn, the blacksmith, with Rini in tow, and handed off the mithril. They also had a bit of a celebration where they consumed some beverages at a local tavern that Rini took them to in celebration of surviving their encounter with the ancient white dragon. They then began making some plans for how to get the refined residuum glass that they needed, which they were told they could get some from Ava in exchange for stealing a ring back that supposedly belongs to her. They had been given this quest a few episodes ago where Ava said that if they returned that ring to them successfully without anyone knowing who took it or how it disappeared, that she would give them in exchange refined residuum glass that they need as the final component for completing the Star Razor's reforging. They scouted out the area through the help of bats and by turning into bats, which are local creatures found all throughout the town because it's in a cave. And with this newly held information, they devised a semblance of a plan in which they would go in from the roof and sneak through the building and find the ring and then take it. And that is more or less what they ended up doing. They managed to get on top of the building undetected through the use of invisibility and by Rini turning into a giant owl again. However, there was a guard up there that noticed when Jester and Nott dimension doored up to directly behind him, and Jester attempted to pull him down to silence him in some way as Nott fired off her crossbow and killed him in one shot. They briefly considered if there was some way that they could hide the body or prop it up or something, and just said, screw it, let's just hurry up and get this done. Nott's drinking continued to be a bit of a problem with the Mighty Nein throughout this entire episode as she continued to take sips from her flask before attempting to do any sort of task. Jester used her magical ink set to draw a hole in the trap door that they had found at the top instead of trying to unlock it and possibly set off traps. Caduceus used his ability to detect traps in order to help them navigate around the traps and prevent setting off any alarms or anything that could cause harm to themselves. They managed to avoid running into any other guards, and there was no combat throughout the rest of the episode other than Nott firing the crossbow at the guard that instantly killed him. Using detect magic and with Nott's help to disarm and pick locks, they managed to successfully infiltrate the building and find the location where they hid their magical items. They found the ring that they were looking for, which matched the description. They also found a quicksilver potion, I think, along with a leather-bound book and a runed wand. Each of these was in separate cases that were locked and trapped individually, and Nott did manage to open up the cases and successfully retrieve the book as well as the ring. However, when they finally attempted to break into the box that contained the wand that they saw, she failed in her attempt to pick the lock, and it seemed to set off some sort of mechanism. They immediately decided to cut their losses and just try and get the hell out of Dodge with the things that they had retrieved. They begin to hear the guards saying, we need to go check inside, and being alerted and realize that they have in fact set off some sort of alarm, but they managed to successfully make their way outside of the building and avoid detection with their new items in hand. They then take the ring to Ava and exchange it for the refined residuum glass, which they then take back, uses that along with the ice flex to finish the Star Razor. And at the very end of the episode, the item card is handed to Ford. It's a very long sheet. It seems to have quite a few magical properties associated with it. However, that is where the episode ended, and so we don't exactly know what the sword does. During this episode, Ford went outside and attempted to commune with the Wild Mother and fell asleep and had another dream sort of situation where the Wild Mother said that she would help him if he was willing to change, and so he embraced that change and allowed her to pull him under the sea, wrapping him up in kelp. And when he woke up, he was in a barrier of kelp that the Mighty Nein pulled off of him. And when he came to, he had his abilities restored. However, this time when he casts spells such as Eldritch Blast, it shoots off a verdant green coloration as opposed to the more sickly green of his previous spell usage. So it seems like he has been able to replace Ukatoa with the Wild Mother, at least for now, and Ford is reunited with his abilities, as well as given a brand new and most likely very powerful weapon to use at his disposal. There won't be a normal episode of Critical Role next week. Instead, they're doing the one-shot, which is Vex's and Percy's marriage from the previous campaign. However, the week after that, we'll find out what exactly Ford's new sword can do, and then they'll probably take off on their way to try and take care of the Laughing Hand with their new weapon in tow. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.